Mr. Wood, you had a question?
Yeah, just one technical question since we have the technical guy here. So it's obvious to visualize something at the supermarket or Home Depot, what, the bag that you get, but what about those bags that, cover the dry cleaning or that the UPS driver uses to cover a package on a rainy day? How are those affected by in Brookline and elsewhere?
Another good question. I do think that there's no such thing as a good, petrochemical plastic bag, but all of the ordinances and bylaws in the Commonwealth are only affecting shopping bags, and those are defined as things that are given out at the cash register, except for Williamstown, which did ban newspaper bags, dry cleaning bags, and produce bags that are also found in supermarkets, for loose vegetables or nuts or whatever. I think it's a worthy goal to try and eliminate those, but those are not the largest volume of bags. There's something to be said for dry cleaning bags. It turns out they're kind of a suffocation hazard. I mean, that's one of the reasons you see that warning that's on all bags in Massachusetts. That infants are in danger if they start playing with plastic bags. That doesn't happen with paper bags. And in fact, the very first plastic bag ban that was proposed was in California in the 50s, and it was around specifically dry cleaning bags, but it didn't pass. And until Williamstown passed its, there has not been any effort in that direction. But it's something to think about. I wouldn't be opposed to your including that in your Bridgewater ordinance, but that's not the usual first step. So it's up to you to decide how to proceed.
Okay, Mr. Norris.
Just for the record, we only address shopping bags. We allow produce bags to stay, and a few other small item bags were excluded from what we did.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? I have Mr. Columbotus, I have a couple of questions myself.
Mr. Richmond, Bridgewater is not Brookline. I mean, I don't think we have the income levels, and we don't have any, 4 independent bookstores and 18, Bangladeshi restaurants. And I'm wondering, I like the idea of a plastic bag ban, but I'm not sure that Bridgewater residents are open to it. And as an elected official, I'm torn between, representing the people's wishes versus leadership. I mean, there's always that sort of conflict that we need to negotiate as elected councilors. So what would you say to a Bridgewater resident who might be more resistant to this sort of thing than, say, your typical Brookline resident?
Well, as I said, there are 16 specific bag ordinances and bylaws across the Commonwealth, and there's a wide range of communities within that. They range from, as I said, South Hadley, Newburyport, Cambridge, Newton, many communities on the Cape, which are not wealthy. They're coastal communities. I mean, every community in Massachusetts is a coastal community. All our waterways feed into the ocean. So these bags and other microplastics and trash are all washing into the ocean. And just like we have today, I don't know if they have them in Bridgewater, but I see them all around the Boston area. Like, don't dump. This goes into the river. And, the ducks. They've got pictures, little tags on the storm drains. I think what we want to say to Bridgewater residents, and any resident, but anywhere for that matter, is that you may not have been aware of the dangers of this, but this is a growing trend. There hasn't been proven any negative effects to these kind of bans. It makes the community more sustainable. It's a positive local environmental step that you can take. That's pretty easy. Just requires a majority vote here of the council. And I think it shows, I mean, there's only 16, so amongst the 351 communities in the Commonwealth, you could have the honor of joining that slight vanguard. But as I said, there's so many of them across the state and across the country. I don't think of it as a radical move. And I guess we could reverse it. I mean, the plastic bag manufacturers didn't have to do an environmental impact statement when they introduced these bags. And I think if there had been that kind of scrutiny and there's more that kind of responsibility on the part of retailers and manufacturers to have products that are more responsible, I don't think we'd be in this pickle that we're in today. I mean, we wouldn't have our recycling facilities clogged every day, sometimes several times a day, with plastic bags gumming up the works. So, you just have to say that it's costing our town money and that it will save money by eliminating these.
Did you have something else, Mr. Norris?
I was just going to make a quick statement for the town council, if I might.
Well, I just have a couple quick questions,
Please.
and I'll let you, make a final statement. So just a couple quick questions. Within Brookline or any other communities that have passed this, have we seen any negative effects to new businesses coming into those communities based on those plastic bag ordinances being put in place? Or are those businesses going to surrounding communities where those ordinances are not in place? Do you have any analysis on that?
No, I mean, plastic bags, as I said, are such a tiny percentage of the overall cost. I don't think that any business would make any kind of decision based upon whether plastic bags were available.
Okay.
So it's a good question, but it would be impossible to prove amongst the many. I mean, I have somewhat of a background in econometrics too. It would be difficult to isolate that factor within the many that are part of the retail economy.
Certainly. And did the town or the groups work with the existing businesses within Brookline on, how was their process of eliminating those bags? Was it a costly situation for them based on reserve bags that they might have had stocks of, or do you have any input on that?
Well, we haven't received any negative feedback from any of the businesses. And again, there's, you have your community partners to help you with that. You have your town departments to help with that. The fact that there's similar legislation in communities within this region. It's being discussed in Rhode Island at the state level. There's just a lot of discussion around. I mean, that paper versus plastic. It's in the Globe. It's in the Cape Cod Times. It's in the Providence paper. I think people are aware of it. If you go to a state like California, where nearly half the state has local bans in effect, or Portland or Austin, Texas. These are big cities. So I think there's just a lot more exposure to this issue now that it's being raised so much in the consciousness of the public.
And just one final question. Certainly, do you know at a state level in Massachusetts right now if there's any discussion or is any proposing any bans statewide? If not, then have you heard if there's many other communities more inclined to go this way if a state policy was put in place regarding the bans?
Well, state legislation is much more complicated. I do spend some time at the State House. I'm not an employee of the Sierra Club. I'm a volunteer with them. My business is actually in software development. I have an engineering background. But I do spend some time at the State House with regard to plastic pollution issues, because I care a great deal about it. And there have been various laws that proposed over the past decade. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. There's been pretty intense opposition from the bag industry. There's been some opposition from the retailers associations. The bills have not gotten very far. Some have been reported out of committee, but then they die in Ways and Means. So I'm not a political pundit, but I would be surprised if a statewide effort was passed this session. I think we need more adoption at the community level. We now have 7% of the state is affected. Cambridge is the largest community on the East Coast, sadly, that has a ban in place, but it is right in our area. I think we're starting to surround the State House is what's going on, but it'll take a little bit more than that to, I think, encourage particularly the House to move on that action. And some of them would actually forbid further, some variations of the law forbid further local action, so it would preempt, but that's not the case today.
Have you heard of many communities wanting to wait till they see something at a state level before acting individually? As a community ban, waiting to see more action from a state level before they take action at a local level?
No, it comes up, they say, I wish, they wish it was being done at the state level so they wouldn't have to spend their valuable legislative time on the issue, but I think they see, and if they, you're welcome to ask your delegation what they think of this law and its chances, and if they support it. But I think they realize that if we want to see any progress, and when you're talking about 700,000 bags per month just in Bridgewater, I think people are attracted to the idea of local action.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Mr. Norris, did you have one final statement you wanted to make?
Thank you, Mr. President. When Ms. Whitaker first approached me with this, which was a while ago. I was hesitant. For those of you who don't know, I'm a pretty fiscally conservative individual. I'm the president of the Republican Party here in Bridgewater, but I'm also a biochemist, and I understand the impact that plastic bags can have. After doing research and really studying upon what this bill would have as an impact on us, and learning that the economic impact would be minute or even minuscule, and in the return, we'd have millions of bags no longer in our waste system, no longer gumming up the works and causing us unknown costs. I was very much in support of it. And that's why I'm continuing on the work now that Ms. Whitaker has gone on, and I was the co-sponsor. I really hope you'll support this, or at least think about it before you make a decision on it. Because this is one of those measures, one of those things we can do to be fiscally conservative and environmentally friendly simultaneously. We're not asking people to convert their houses all to solar, or we're not asking them to drive electric cars. We're asking them simply to switch from plastic over to paper bags, and then from that point on, we could be far more sustainable without incurring a cost that anyone would really even notice. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, thank you, Mr. Richmond, for your presentation.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Mr. President, can I just clarify where this ordinance is?
Oh, certainly.
It's
Mr.
before the
Columbus.
Community and Economic Development Committee. We had a meeting several months ago. I, as chair of that committee, promised that I would do some background work and gather data, review the data, and bring it back, schedule another meeting of the committee. I haven't done that. I've been negligent. I'm sorry. I will get to it soon after the beginning of the year, and I would just hope we can get more citizens involved. I know on Facebook there's a lot of opposition. I'd love to see those people show up at a meeting so we can discuss it face to face, or discuss facts, benefits, costs, all that. So look out for it after the beginning of the year.
Very good. Thank you very much.
I have a motion to make during the committee reports. I'm actually going to make a motion to relieve ordinance 2014-006, the plastic bag reduction, from Community and Economic Development Committee.
I'll second that for discussion.
Okay, so we have a motion to relieve the subcommittee of that ordinance and a second for discussion. Please, any discussion at the matter?
Just give an explanation of what's going on. The plastic bag ban has been around for a while, and we've been, and Pete's been very busy. Mr. Columbotus has been very busy, and I don't blame him. And he's been having dual meetings, and at those dual meetings, you really can't have something specific to that one committee when you're joining with another committee. So it's kind of been a restriction on him, instead of pulling like double meetings during the week or triple meetings. What this motion does is this actually takes it back out of subcommittee, and it brings it before the town council during the next meeting. We've had a presentation, and we've had 6-7 months to go over it by now. I think it would be good to move it along, bring it back to the town council, let us discuss it, and just vote on it.
Okay. Any other discussion on the matter? Mr. Columbotus.
I wonder if there's any mechanism whereby we could say if it's not brought out of that committee by a certain time, it automatically is taken out of committee. Essentially, to set a deadline for that committee to refer it back to the council.
Respond on that. Further discussion on that comment?
Mr. Goldadia, is there any mechanism like that where we can say if it's not referred from a committee by a certain time, it automatically is
Brought back to
relieved
council?
from that committee?
I was just looking at your rules for a moment, and I think certainly a motion such as that would be in order.
Okay, so we would need a motion of that magnitude to take it out of subcommittee based on the time frame that it's been in that subcommittee at this time.
Well, Mr. Dorsch could amend his motion if he so chose to move to withdraw it from the committee unless a report is issued by a certain date.
Okay.
Would the second meeting in January be good? Mr. President, I'd like to make a friendly amendment to my motion to relieve the ordinance if a report is not presented by the second meeting in January.
Certainly. Do I have a second on that
I'll
friendly
second
amendment? Mr. Gallagher. Any further discussion on that amendment? Seeing none, I guess we'll have a voice vote on that motion. All those in favor of that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.